very good morning to you, and thanks for joining us on the Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. My name is Nyamgul Agaji, and this is The Brunch. The Brunch is where we ask you a question. What are you doing between lunch and breakfast, or rather breakfast and lunch? It's a combination of that. So it's mid-morning. That's why we called it that, the brunch. Okay, so what are we discussing on the brunch? What we do every day when we come here every weekday is to zero in on one thing, one issue that Nigerians might want to just listen to and learn something. So we talk about various issues: environment, the law, medicine, education, and empowerment, and all that. So today, what are we talking about? We're talking about inheritance on the brunch. Inheritance in Nigeria, the law versus reality. Our guest this morning is going to be Barrister Jimmy Abia. Now, the question is, when a father dies, who inherits his house? His wife, his sons, his brothers, his daughters? In Nigeria, the answer depends on where you live, what your family believes, and whether you know the law. So today on the brunch, we're talking inheritance, what the Nigerian law says, who actually qualifies, who gets cut out, and why custom in the East, West, and North often tells a different story. Okay, so like I told you, we're going to be joined by Barrister Jimmy Abia to break it down in plain English. No legal jargon, just what you need to know before a family dispute lands you in court. So just stay tuned and listen to us, and we will encourage you to send your messages to us on 08171756338. WhatsApp messages, that's the WhatsApp number I'm giving you, is the safest thing to do, to send us messages on that number. Start sending them now. Any issue you have about inheritance, it is today. We want to answer that question for you. The barrister will be joining us soon. You know how it is when it rains in Lagos, and so it's a possibility he's been caught in traffic. But he's very close. In the next 5 minutes, he should be joining us for the program this morning. So be sure to be a part of this program. Okay, before we enter into talking law, in the morning when we were doing front page review, what we said, a lot of things that we said in the morning, was how to make people use the opportunities that are in front of them to better their lives. And Rufai was saying a lot of things that he has done and opportunities that he has created for people to be able to empower themselves and not wait for rice and noodles to come to you by politicians who want you to just vote for them and they forget about you. So he said on his Twitter page, there are things like AI training and so many other opportunities that are bound there. So if you follow him on his X handle, for instance, you're going to get those opportunities, AI training, and so many other empowerment projects that are there, things that need to build you, things that are aimed at building you to be a better person for yourself, to be self-reliant and not be, dribbled around by some other people who feel that the very air you breathe belongs to them, and when they don't offer it to you, you're gone. So people have been asking for this X handle, and I've been giving it to them. So if you did not join us at that time to get this X handle, before I give you the X handle, he also said that if you have a business that you want to advertise, his handle is free for you to do so. Post your business there for free. You're a tailor, for instance. We have, for instance, one tailor that is an ardent listener of our program, Shea Cuts from Itiria also, and then and so many other people. You have your various businesses and you want to post it there. He has over 1 million plus followers. And you know what that means? That means, and according to him, if I quote him, at any given point in time, the people who are actively engaging his page are from 400 to 500,000 every day. So imagine those people looking at your business there. One or two persons will pick interest and you do business. That's how businesses grow nowadays. It's social media that people use to grow their businesses. So you've been offered a platform, and if you want to take advantage of that, go to at Ruffy the Fire at Ruffy the Fire. That is RUFFYDFIRE. Ruffy the Fire. Or you want to call it Rufi the Fire, whatever you want to call it. But Ruffy the Fire, Rufai Oseni, that is his Twitter handle, or X handle as it is now called, Ruffy the Fire. So if you didn't get that and you still want me to just send it to you, if you send us a message here today while the brunch is going on and say you need that Twitter handle in case you're not able to spell it, or the audio in your radio is not good enough for you to hear me spell it well, just request for it. I'll forward it to you immediately. Ruffy the Fire, go there, follow him on X, and then take advantage of all the opportunities that are there. The opportunity of more than 1 million eyes watching, or more than at least 400,000 people watching and actively engaging on that platform. So it's either to go there and do business, or you go there and look for the various trainings and empowerment programs that are there, and then take advantage of them. He reposted some of them today. I think he reposted the same ones yesterday and the day before yesterday. The entire week he has been reposting so that you don't miss it. So when you go there, click on it and the rest will be added on to you. So Ruffy the Fire, at Ruffy the Fire. If you do not own X, I'm very sure I think you can also get that just by typing that handle in at Ruffy the Fire, and you click into that, and then it takes you to Rufai's page, and then you click it, just maybe enter it through your Google account, and that's the end. So you find out all the things that he has talked about. So that's how it's going to be. We'll answer you if you send us not an SMS, a message on WhatsApp, or if you want to talk about the inheritance, because that is our topic on the brunch this morning. Inheritance. That's the topic for today. So start sending your messages to us so that once we begin to talk with the barrister, we can just stop at a very, very convenient time, take your question, and then the barrister will answer the question. Okay, I did say something in the morning, and we had a very, very unfortunate event in the morning. At some point, we were off air, and I still apologize for that. For the bulk of the time I was talking, so many people that were not listening or watching through YouTube were not able to get us. So some concerned people called and said, we can't get you. And I didn't know, I was just talking to myself. So that is what happened at that time. So a lot of people may not even know this story I'm talking about, Rufai. Anyway, at the time Rufai was talking, it was good enough. People could hear us. But as soon as he dropped, something happened, maybe because of the rain or something, and we couldn't get through to the people. So in case you're just hearing it for the first time, there are so many opportunities on his X handle. So just follow him and take advantage of that. And when he was talking, somebody sent a message and said, oh, he's blowing his trumpet too much, we should shut him up and say he should not blow his trumpet anyway. And my answer to the person was, if someone blows his trumpet, until you can do something better than him, leave the bragging rights for the person who is doing it. These are things government should do. And if they're not doing it and somebody else is doing it, and even if they're doing it and someone is complimenting the efforts of government, I'm not sure the best thing is to say, shut him up, shut him down. It's to challenge everybody that within your meager means, you too can do something for humanity. That is it. That's the whole reason of talking about whatever anybody has been doing at all. When we talked about the health outreach on VOP that we are hoping to do sometimes in June. Yesterday I was here with the doctor, and he assured me that he's been talking to fellow doctors that will come around and just consult with you, or you consult with them. You'll tell them their problems, because for so many people The time to go to the hospital, the phobia for the hospital, the money to go to the hospital, all these things come into play, and they're not able to get expert advice. So that outreach program we are hoping to do sometime in June, and it's going to be on a weekend, I assure you. It's going to give you that opportunity to sit one-on-one with the doctor, talk to the doctor, these are my challenges and all that. He will give you a prescription if you need it. He will point you at the right direction where you need to go to get the help that you need, if that's what you need, and all that. We may not be, in fact, let me not say may not, we will not be giving out drugs, but we'll give you expert advice that can help you. Because when we're talking health on the show, a lot of people have various questions that they want to ask us, whether it's a health condition they are concerned about, or whether they are concerned about how to prevent a health condition, or any random question, and we've been answering. But on that day, there will be more than one doctor. And in that outreach, or for that outreach, some people are volunteering. Some of them are saying, on that day, I'd like to at least just be an usher. Some people are saying, on that day, I'm going to provide some pure water, or all pure, the whole pure water that we will need, or the whole water that we will need on that day. There are some people who could say, if there are 6 doctors or 10 doctors, I'll be able to give breakfast to 2 doctors or 3 doctors, as the case may be, or even 1 doctor. When we call it all these things, we know that things will be easy for us. You can do something for humanity. You may either have the money to help us do other things, or you might have the strength to help us do the things that we need to do. On that day, we'll need to set up some canopies. We need hands. We will need to get some plastic chairs. We need hands. Some people could volunteer to give us the plastic chairs and the canopies, but they may not actually be there. Maybe you have a bus and you want to bring it to help us convey these things to the venue. Then that's help. You can always help humanity. And then another person sent a message, because I'm sure he heard me on YouTube, because we couldn't even reach our people on the regular radio wave. That was when we had that problem. And I said something. There's a quote that I love in the scripture. And I said, whether you're Christian or not, this story should touch you, and you ask yourself a relevant question. And it is in the 2nd book of Kings, chapter 20, the story of Hezekiah. Hezekiah was told by a prophet that was sent by God to him and said, what you've been doing, I'm ready to kill you. So put your house in order, because you're going to die. And Hezekiah tore his clothes, he repented, and he was very sorry about what he did that made God to say that he was going to kill him. And what happened? He reminded God, remember how I have walked before you faithfully and with wholehearted devotion, and have done what is good in your eyes. And he wept bitterly. Okay? So before Isaiah could even leave the palace, the Lord asked him to go back to Hezekiah and to tell him that this is what I have said. I have heard your prayers and seen your tears. I will heal you. On the 3rd day from now, you will go up the temple of the Lord. I will add 15 years to your life, and I will deliver you and this city from the hand of the king of Assyria. I will defend this city for my sake and for the sake of my servant David. What do you get from here? Hezekiah could argue his case because he did something that was pleasing in the eyes of the Lord, at least before he became what he became and was sick. What will you tell God if he comes for your life today? What will you be remembered for if you leave today? Because nobody knows when they are going. What will you be remembered for? That's a question you should ask yourself. How bold will you be before God when you're praying to say, God, remember what I did? And then Hezekiah not only thanked God, but he challenged God and said, let the shadow be cast against the sun. Like if you stand, the sun is behind you, your shadow should be in front. And if it is in front of you, your shadow should be behind. But Hezekiah said, to prove, O Lord, that you have really forgiven me, let my shadow be against the sun, so that when I'm standing against the sun, the shadow should still be in front of me. And the Lord said, okay, I'm going to show you. So I challenge you today, if you think that someone else is bragging, doing good, do better. Don't call them out and say they are bragging too much. You do better. As simple as that. so that when you leave, you will be remembered for the things that you did to make this world better. And it doesn't have to be millions of naira. Okay, so we're talking inheritance today, and we would like to also remind you that today is that famous debate. So tune to our YouTube channel, Voice of the People Television, is going to be broadcasting it live, I think from 11 o'clock, so that you hear the arguments of these contenders. A lot of people will come out for the 2027 election, but for these few parties that we mentioned, these are the people that are really, really the people they're talking about. So let me just really fast bring back that promo that talks about the town hall debate happening today on VOP television. So here it is.
Nigeria, with its complex political atmosphere, divergent views and discordant views, better still, coming with bass bows. Only one question matters: who really has the best candidate? Something is here. 5 political camps, 1 stage, no filters. Join us in this clash as supporters of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Peter Obi, Atiku Abubakar, Omoyele Sowore, and Adewale Adebayo go head to head in no holds barred town hall debate. No script, just raw, unfiltered conversation. This is more than politics. This is where opinions clash. Facts are tested and the truth fights to be heard. Happening live on May 22nd by 11 a.m. at Golden Tulip Terrace Hall, Ihoka Tower, 36 International Airport Road, Lagos. Don't miss it. Watch live on YouTube at VOP TV. Set your reminder, subscribe, join the conversation. My candidate is the best. Or is it?
Voice of the people. Find your brand. Find your voice.
Okay, still the brunch on your darling station, Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. And this is the brunch. Okay, and this is Nyambulagadi. I've already told you this is the brunch. Okay, today we're talking inheritance with Barrister Jimmy Abia. So if you have any question about inheritance in your area, let us know. Who is it that inherits that land, that house, that money in the bank, and all that? And then we also are encouraging you to send us messages that maybe will affect the development of the area that you are. Like this one we have from Remy, reporting from Ejigbo Power Line, Lagos. He said, our road is very bad. We're pleading to our government to come to our aid. Okay, and she sent a video of the road, a terrible road. We hope that the government is looking at it. Lagos State government is trying really, really hard, and is doing well, but sometimes your best may not be good enough. So people are still crying. So no matter how many good roads are anywhere in Lagos, so long as a particular location still doesn't have a good road, they will still judge you according to what is obtainable in their neck of the woods. So for the people who are asking for Rufai's Twitter handle or X handle is Ruffy the Fire, at Ruffy the Fire, that is RUFFYDFIRE, Ruffy the Fire. And if you send us a message on WhatsApp, we also are going to just forward it to you simply, so that you don't get it twisted. Now, okay, so We also have a message saying, I could not get the name of the page you spelled out. Beatrice from Itire. Beatrice, here you go. Take it. Yeah, there's magic in technology. I just send it to you, and it's as simple as that. So we also have a platform that was created by the same Rufai, and he calls it Resolvam. So if there's a problem, police has arrested somebody you know or yourself illegally, there's a case that you need a pro bono, there's no light in your community, and the power holding company is doing some abracadabra for you and doing yanga for you. Someone has had an accident and is in the hospital and nobody seems to care. Whatever the reason is, something that can make our society better, just go ahead to resolvam.com. It's like saying resolve it in pidgin English. So we just you just go there and find out where you can go to on that page, and then make your complaint or lay your complaint. It's resolvam.org. That is RESOLVAM as one word, and then .org. Resolvam.org. So just go there and lay your complaints. So once again, Ruffy the Fire, RUFFYDFIRE. You want AI training? There's a free AI training there. So if you want to get that, no payment of any sort. If you also want to post your business, if it's a legit business you want to post there and you want eyes, a lot of eyes to see it, you can post it for free. It's not charging you anything. He has more than 1 million followers on X handle. So some things he doesn't even need to put his mouth, as we say. He doesn't need to put his mouth at all. He just gives you the platform to go and do that. So if you also find yourself in a little corner and you think there's something you can do for humanity, please go ahead and do it, and come back to VOP and brag as you like. We like it. Brag as you like. Brag anyhow you like. We will just allow you brag. Okay. So right now I'm treating mostly these requests that are coming in here. Fire is just like the fire, F-I-R-E. So you don't spell it F-I-E, no, fire. Like Rufai that is burning on fire. Rufai that is a consuming fire. Rufi the fire. That's how it is. So if you're trying to spell it right. Okay. So inheritance. That's what we'll be talking about right now. Place is Ruffy the Fire, not they as in THE. No, Ruffy the Fire. Okay, let me call it that way. Ruffy the Fire is one word. It's just D, not THE. I'm seeing some people spelling it Rufai the Fire. It's not Rufai, it's Ruffy. That is RUFFYDFIRE. That's the word. Not Rufai. It's just, he coined it from Rufai anyway. But Rufai, Ruffy the Fire, or Rufi the Fire, however you want to put it. So if you're not sure of it, send a message on WhatsApp on 0817175638, and I'll just forward it to you. It's very easy to do that. So don't spell it wrongly. Okay. So a lot of people have begun sending their messages to us, and then we are going to begin right now, and we're glad to be joined by Barrister Jimmy Abia. Okay, barrister, good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry for whatever held you back at this time. Once it rains in
There's
Lagos,
a lot of traffic on
yeah,
the road.
once
A
it
lot-
rains,
a
yeah.
lot of traffic.
Sorry
Everywhere.
about that. Okay, most of the people should buy a private jet and be bringing our guests to the program. Okay, so we're looking at inheritance today, and I was just asking a teaser, when your father dies in Nigeria, who inherits the house? His wife, his sons, his brothers, or his family, or his daughters? These are the questions that beg answers when it comes to inheritance in this our country. But we want to know what the law is. So let's begin with the unfortunate event of someone dying. First of all, let's define what inheritance really is by law.
Okay. Inheritance simply means passing on the property to the next person, not by virtue of sale, not by virtue of gift, but simply by the virtue that this person has the right in the event of demise of this other person. So it could be through will, it could be through will, and it could be also through intestate succession, where somebody dies without a will. So it simply means the people who take from that in terms of succession, from the person who has just gone to be with the Lord and who has passed on.
It seems that second one is a bit dangerous, because the family could just decide on whatever they're supposed to do, or, quote and unquote,
Yes.
and then disinherit the people that ordinarily should inherit the property.
Yes, it might look dicey, but it's not exactly so, because laws are in place to protect, on how things should be divided, even in terms of in instances of intestate succession. Of course, where the family or the successors of the person, whoever they be, decide to on their own, unanimously to divide things in a different way from what the law has stipulated. Of course, the law will not hamper that. But where there is no such mutual agreement, of course it will go according to what the law has stipulated. And like I said, what the law has stipulated will either be based on what the law has stipulated in terms of will of the person, or in terms of intestate succession, where there is no will.
Okay, so let me just jump the gun. I was thinking about leaving this till later, but let me just ask this question. Whenever you go to fill a form, there's always next of kin. Is next of kin necessarily the person to inherit your estate or your property?
No. The next of kin does not, is not an inheritor, is not a successor. It's simply like someone, a contact person.
Yeah.
For in case something happens, that's what the next of kin. So the next of kin, the way we use it in Nigeria, is not exactly correct. Is not exactly right. Saying that next of kin is the person who will inherit. That's not that's not what the law prescribes.
So it doesn't even have to be a family member, but someone who can.
No, it doesn't have to be a family member.
Okay.
Yes, it doesn't have to be a family member, but oftentimes it is a family member.
Because when you go to fill a form, for instance, and you put, let's say, your son or your daughter,
Yes.
the person is just looking at you like, what happened to your wife? Why do men don't? So I'm just wondering. So it's.
But women had in short, women hardly ever. If you ask bankers, women hardly ever put their husbands.
Yeah.
So somebody should not look at a man in a strange way if the man does not put the wife. He has his own reasons for doing that, and next of kin is not necessarily the person who inherits. So it might be because he feels that this other person would be, if I mean, in case the person, for instance, the person has an accident, and he might want to put his brother, because when the brother is called up or the sister is called up, is the person that will respond quickly.
Yeah.
So that's usually the person you will want to put as next of kin, not necessarily the person that is living in the same house, but somebody who will respond quickly if there is a situation of emergency, or if you are called up, or if you are not seen, the person who will most likely be in a position to address things. That's the person you put as next of kin.
So someone who is next of kin cannot go to court or cannot claim anything, just to put it into perspective, cannot claim anything and say, because I was written down as the next of kin, I should be the one to administer the estate of the person who is deceased.
No, unless the person has also been added as a beneficiary in the will.
So what do you by law call the person who inherits the property of the deceased?
That's what I said, a beneficiary.
Okay, that's the name.
Yes, a beneficiary of the estate of the person, or you can call the person a successor in title. Although successor in title is wider, but it's a beneficiary directly, to say. So,
okay. So walk us through what it is like if you die without a valid will, the one that you're calling the intestate succession.
Okay, so if a person dies without a will, the rules that will apply will depend on a number of factors. Now, if the person is a Muslim, the Islamic law will apply. To very large extent, although there's also a room for the ones he has given away by will. I think 1/4% percent of what he has given out can go in that manner, but the rest will have to go according to Islam. Something that he has passed on. Maybe he has said, when he dies, give this. It might be verbal. That can be respected, but to an extent. The Islamic law prescribes that most of what the person has acquired, will go in accordance with Islamic law, and which takes cognizance of the wives, the children, in different proportions. Now, especially the children, in different proportions. Then there's also the customary law. Now, where a person has led his life, in form of the customary ways, especially where he was not married under the act. What I mean by married under the act is registry marriage, where people marry under the Marriage Act. It will usually be interpreted that the person lived his life under customary law. So customary law will apply in terms of the succession, in terms of intestate succession. But most times where the person has been married under the Marriage Act, the Marriage Act would come into play in terms of disposal of the person's assets.
Okay.
Even in intestate succession, yes.
Okay, this one seems somehow, but let me ask it.
Yes.
Does the manner of death of the deceased affect inheritance?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
What if I'm suspecting that it's the wife that killed him, or is the husband that killed the wife?
It will not. It will not. There are penalties for that. If the person has committed anything, then the law is there to deal with that.
If it's proven,
so it doesn't affect the inheritance, inheritance rights of that person. If the inheritance was properly, not a situation where the person has gone to manipulate the inheritance. Now, there's also another point. If the person has gone to manipulate the inheritance to benefit him, do you understand? The court can deprive the person.
How would you know it was manipulated?
For instance, where people go to change wills, do you understand, and lodge a different will. Do you understand? The court will not accede to that, where the person has gone to manipulate these things in order to now gain when this person dies. Do you understand? Or where a person goes ahead and kills this somebody, and then possibly because something had been gifted to him, the law might in equity come in place to deprive that person. But the general principle is simply that it does not. The general rule is that it does not affect the manner of death. Does not. It must be, first of all, it must be proven to be a fact, and usually it would have been that the person, for the court to deprive the person of what he has, it must have been that the person has probably committed fraud in the process, has probably done certain things that gave him undue advantage.
Oh, okay.
In that circumstance, yes.
What's the best state to write a will? Like, sometimes they say when you're so old, you may not be in your correct faculties anymore, and if you write a will, it may be invalid. Is that true? And so when should we write wills?
Yes, the person must be of a disposing mind. Must be of a disposing mind, to be able to make a will.
Okay.
So even if there was a will before, maybe the person wanted to do an amendment, to his will, or file a codicil to his will, and then the one he did earlier, later, was without a sound disposing mind. The court will recognize the previous one, which was done with sound mind, rather than the later one, which was done with, when was no longer. Now, it doesn't mean that this person will be strong, agile in physical strength, but he must be of a sound disposing mind at the time of disposal of the property.
Okay, so
yes.
it's advisable to do your will even when you're still young.
Yes.
Because a lot of Nigerians, if you're listening to us, I know that maybe 80 or 90% will be like, God forbid.
Yes.
As if once you make your will, you have resigned to your fate that you are going to die immediately. This is not the case. But let me ask a question that is related to that. Can you modify your will after you have made it and signed?
Yes, you can.
What are the processes?
Yes, you can modify your will. It's simply to prepare an amendment to the will. Or make an amendment to the will, and then still follow the similar process as the original process which you made the will and submitted it, and then submit an amendment to the will. So you can either retrieve the will and make a fresh will, a new one, or you can make a codicil in addition to your will, to change a few things or to add to the existing will.
What makes a will valid? Is it just your writing, or is it that you have to go to court, or you have to consult a lawyer or a priest or whatever? What is it, that basic ingredients that will make a will authentic document to be presented at your demise?
Okay, a will have been made. We have mentioned this. It must have been made with a sound disposing mind.
Yeah.
It must have made clear disposition of property. Yeah. And it must have been witnessed, to have been a valid will. So these are the things that have that are basic, that for a will to be valid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Must it be written?
Yes, a will has to be written under the current law. It has to be written. Of course, traditionally people make statements that traditionally, but this is under our local laws, where somebody says, let this thing, when he's no longer there, let this thing go to this person. Now, if there are witnesses, and it is not in contention, so the property can go in that way, but that is not a will stricto sensu, in line with the Wills Act. Do you understand? In line with the Wills Act, which is a statutory law, the will has to be written. It has to be written. It has to follow certain procedures like what I have mentioned for the will to be valid. So it cannot be verbal.
Did I miss it, or you mentioned it? Must there be a lawyer when you're writing a will, or who are the people that are qualified to be witnesses?
Okay, an adult, it will not be somebody who is a beneficiary of the will, but an adult, anybody who any adult can be a witness to a will.
Okay.
And then what other question did you ask, please?
No, that's,
okay, that's basically
yes, because I was asking whether you must have a lawyer around.
No.
Okay.
It's not mandatory. However, it's advisable that you have a lawyer, because he will guide you through the process and ensure that your will is valid. Because you could make a will, and for certain reasons, maybe the way your disposition of your properties, might affect properties that are not exactly, might not exactly, or maybe joint properties which you share with others, and all those. It might end up not making the will, or that particular aspect of the will, invalid. So it's important that you have a lawyer in making a will.
Well, since you just talked about joint ownership, let me take this message from Ima from Ikola Ipaja. He's saying, I have property which I shared with my 2 other siblings. We are actually 3 male surviving siblings of my parents, so we shared the building amongst ourselves, and we did deed of partition in our shared apartments of the building. Each one of us has his own deeds done by our family lawyer then, so I can sell my own part of my inheritance with this deed of partition. Please, barrister, explain how I can go about it. So obviously he wants out, and he wants to make money from it. Can he sell or can he not sell?
Okay, well, it depends on how it is couched. If the property if it is joint property, that is that they own jointly, that has
one house.
Not just that is one house, but the one house is still held jointly.
Yes.
Do you understand? It's still held jointly. For instance, in the deed says Emeka, Chijioke, Sheung, Usman own this property.
Yeah.
You will not be able to dispose it just that way, through your will.
Your own portion.
No. But where it has been partitioned, do you understand? Where there has been partitioning, so it's no longer a joint property, stricto sensu. You can actually dispose of your own part of the joint property.
It's really really confusing. Okay, let's say it is land, it's one plot, and you're jointly owning it. Maybe it is possible to measure them out and say, okay, you take this portion, you take this portion, and I'm selling mine. Maybe that is possible. What if it is a house? Maybe it is a 2-story building, and everybody is given a story of that house. Is it possible to also say that is separation of the property?
Of course, it is separation.
So you can sell the upstairs.
You have separated your property. Do you understand? You have separated. No, that's why I'm saying that it depends on what the parties have agreed on and how they have. So if the parties, have had an agreement that they will not sell, this property remains in the family. That property will remain in the family. However, if for instance, there are different floors. Of course, if the person who owns maybe middle floor, the middle floor, that his children can take over. He can pass through his will the floor which he owns to his children. Do you understand? Of course, the arrangement. But if it has not been divided in that way, that's what we must understand this. If it has not been divided in that way, then he cannot pass it on to the next person. The surviving joint tenant will take over from there.
Whoa.
Yes. So it's important that parties, when they are doing this, understand these intricacies. That's why I said that it's always important that in issues of inheritance and property, that lawyers are involved to be able to untie these things, because they can be very confusing to a lay mind. Really
confusing. Okay, so let me try to get some more questions from the people who are listening to us now. But anyway, let me go back to my train of thought when I started with this program. We've talked about a situation where you die without writing a will. And then let's look at the spouse and the children. Under statutory law, what share goes to a wife, husband, and children? Can a wife be completely excluded?
No, under statutory law, a wife cannot be completely excluded. Under common law, but in Nigeria it has been replaced by statutory law. Under common law, a wife can be excluded. That's what a lot of us under the original common law, which was applicable in England, is that a wife can actually be excluded. Now, however, under statutory law, which has replaced the common law in Nigeria as our received English law, under statutory law, which we apply in terms of the Marriage Act, a wife cannot be excluded so long. Indeed, she's the number one in terms of hierarchy of inheritance. So she inherits a part, then the children will inherit a part. There's a division formula within which they would divide and take the property.
What if this person dies without a will?
Yes.
And the customary act is the one that is used.
Law, yes.
The customary law is the one that is being used.
Yes.
And in that custom, maybe, let's say, in a part like the southeast,
yes,
and the custom says that a woman cannot inherit. Does the wife have a fighting chance?
First of all, it is wrong. Please, I want to be on record. Nigerians should hear this. It is wrong that the law in the southeast, in Igbo custom, says that women cannot inherit. Now, I have gone ahead because, you see, our problem in Nigeria is that people do not take... we have a problem with our education. There is no deep insight, deep attempt to research, in our education. Now, if you look at the judgments in that, dealt with that issue.
For
sorry.
At least for the purpose of this discussion, it was an example.
Yes.
But it has triggered something that people have this conception. Yes. So go ahead and explain.
So that's why it's important that people know. Because if you don't know where you're coming from, you will not know where you're going to. Now, the judgments on this matter, what the judgments did was simply to say, the judgments had to most of the judgments dealt with land, landed property. Now, and once the judgment, the idea was, once the judgment dealt with landed property, then it said that the law said that the Igbo custom said women cannot inherit. But the judgment, the integrity of the property in question in most of those matters was, indeed, in 99% of the matters, was land. Now, that's one. Two, it dealt with certain communities, not all Southeast communities. Yeah. So it must be understood that, first of all, communities have different customs in terms of inheritance. Indeed, in places in Abia State and in some places in Ebonyi State, it passes through matrilineal, so it passes through the female line. So it is not uniform. So it's important that when people discuss this thing, they mention the particular community in question, because people need to understand it, so that areas that did not practice this will not go ahead to practice. Now, that is one. Two, it's important to also understand that because in English law, because in our statutory law, the rule simply talks about inheritance. Now, the courts were possibly misled to now look at property as property without distinguishing between what is a chattel. Chattel are movable properties. For instance, goats, kitchen utensils, clothes, different other things. And even when it comes to investment, for instance, in intellectual property rights, rights to shares and others. Now, these things are not included. So there is a rule that applies to landed property. Do you understand? In customary law, even in those areas. Now, however, going by the judgments, what the judgments did was to rule that it is repugnant to natural justice to deprive anybody, whether male or female, of property. So as at today, as of any property, including the land, and even in land, there are specific kinds of land. If we have time, I'll come to that later. So what the judgments did was to state that it is repugnant to deprive any person based on gender, based on circumstances of birth, of any property. So it means that if today anybody is depriving any person of property, it is not because of custom still applicable, because the custom has been ruled to be repugnant and inapplicable. So it means that what the person needs to do is simply to exercise his rights. So it might be
a right under what law? Statutory law.
Under the statute which has been granted under constitutional law.
Okay.
Because it is the constitutional law that has provided that everybody is equal, that no person shall be deprived of property based on circumstances of anything, based on or discriminated based on circumstances of birth, based on gender, or anything. So it is based on now constitutional law. So nobody can be deprived based on the fact of custom, even of that land, which I have said the custom applied to land. And even to land, it is not all land. It is only to the aniobi, which is the family homestead. It is not entirely all land. It is only to the aniobi and the communal land.
Okay.
Because land was held communally. Was held communally originally. So it is only to the communal land and to the aniobi. If I acquire property in another town, there's nothing stopping me, even under custom. Now the law, as at today, because of the judgment, has even abolished this. But I am saying that even under custom, originally, if I acquire land that is not communal land, I have the right to dispose it even to my daughter, to grant it to my daughter. And even in case of intestate succession where I do not have a will, my daughter is entitled to benefit from that property even under customary law. So the judgments, I say this with all sense of responsibility, that the judgments on this matter, several judgments have missed the important and critical point. And it is important that this is understood so that people don't go making the same mistakes. People should understand that the law in the Southeast, because why was I, before I read law, when my father died, we were going to distribute property, and we were informed, because we were told that his property, that everybody look at how this property. Then I began to wonder, what about the thing we were taught? Then that was when I went into research and understood that it was not even the customary law. When my mother, now let me even tell you, if a woman dies, her property goes to her female children. So the judgments did not deal with those things. The judgment simply said women cannot inherit, but that is not the law. That is not the customary law. So the judgment simply said women cannot inherit. The custom of the Southeast that said women cannot inherit, that is not the custom.
And that's not just for Southeast. There are a lot of other
it is important that people also look into what was the custom. But again, like I said, regardless of the custom, regardless of where the custom applies, regardless of what the custom says, the law as at today, because of the judgments of court, even up to the Supreme Court, is that no person shall be deprived of any property based on gender, whether it is land or whether it is chattel. No person can now be deprived of that property as at today in Nigeria.
Okay, we might have to come back to that a little bit later if we have need. But someone is just asking, Corson is asking, what are the critical components to show that the person writing a will has a disposing mind? Please throw more perspective on that.
Of course, the person must, where the person is found, a disposing mind is, to the reasonable mind. For instance, where a person has been found, maybe his medical records showed that at that time, the person was suffering a mental illness that deprives him of ability to think independently, to reason independently, deprives him of this agency, ability to think, ability to reason properly, and have his actions in line. Where somebody is having insanity, is suffering from insanity, he will not be in a position to make a will in that state. in that state of mind, except if that insanity is not the one, whether if that person had lucid moments and in his lucid moments, made this will, of course, it can be valid. But if at the point where the person was, making it, probably the person was in hospital bed, cannot even think of himself, and then somebody brings a document to him and he signs, he appends his signature, it cannot be a valid will.
I'm laughing because of the question I'm going to ask you now. Is juju recognized by law? Because a lot of people would say, he made that and it looked like he was in sound mind, but he was influenced by juju.
No.
Because when this person asked this question, I could read some other things on that. So I'm talking like a Nigerian, typical Nigerian things that sometimes influences can come from the diabolical. Is that recognized by law?
No, the law does not. The law does not recognize that. It law does not recognize. Of course, the law recognizes witchcraft.
Does it now?
Yes, doing witchcraft and all that. It's an offense. Now, it can be an offense. Doing certain practices that certain practices. However, it does not recognize it for the purpose of maybe affecting somebody in terms of making a will. It doesn't.
Okay. Please, what is the best formula for sharing a property in a polygamous family? Is it according to number of children or number of wives? Sheyi Courts from Itire.
Okay, it depends. It depends. In Yoruba custom, there is the idigi and the oriojori. One of them, has to be in terms of the number of wives. So if a wife has, let's say a man has 4 wives, it will be distributed according to the number of wives, and then the children will now take the property in number. So if one fourth of the property goes to their mother, to the family of their mother, even if the woman is late. Now the children will now share the property to themselves. That's 1/4, depending on the number of wives. That's what I'm saying. So if for instance a wife has only 1 child, he will get 1/4, despite the fact. Now that is one. Then the other one is the one that goes in number of children, so distributed along the children. So the customs depend, which will apply will depend on the community, on a number of factors, which will apply between the oriojori and the digi customs.
Both of them have their advantages and disadvantages. Yes. So you have 10 children, for instance, and you're given a portion equal to the person who may be barren and not having children. So that person takes that chunk and nobody to share, and the other one takes the same size and is sharing among 10 children. That's what it means, right?
You say? Sorry.
One of the wives of the four wives, one of them is without child.
Yes.
The other one has 10 children, but they're giving them equally, and their children will have to share from those portions.
Yes.
That's what it means.
Yes, that's what it means.
And the other one, so there's disadvantage there. Okay, the other one also, according to the number of children. What if the wife that doesn't have children, or will she also have a portion even when she doesn't have children? It is
distributed according to
children.
The children.
So if she doesn't have a child,
even if it is even if it is in order, of course the wife gets something, but it is not. The inheritance does not go to the wife; it goes to the children, but through the wives.
Okay.
Through the wives, the property the inheritance goes to the children through the wives. So that is what you now have as the digi and your.
So I don't understand. If the wife has no children, where does the property go to? It stops at the wife's table.
Of course, she will get something of that property, but not as it would have been if she had children. Yes. Because you know why?
Yeah.
Because in customary law, and it's important that we know this, in customary law, the woman and the man are not one. So the woman would own her own properties.
Okay.
Do you understand? The woman owns her own properties as an individual. The man owns his own properties as an individual. They don't have, so unlike in English law, where when we say English law, in statutory law, in what we call, sometimes we will call them common law, but not exactly common law because they are received statutory law. The wife, is the same with the man. Is seen as one. Like the
two of them become one.
Become one. So when the other person dies, the other party will, can step into their shoes. But it is not exactly so in customary law.
Okay, let's breathe a little bit.
Nigeria, with its complex political atmosphere, divergent views and discordant views, better still, coming with bass bows. Only one question matters: who really has the best candidate? Something is here. 5 political camps, 1 stage, no filters. Join us in this clash as supporters of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Peter Obi, Atiku Abubakar, Omoyele Sowore, and Adewale Adebayo go head to head in no holds barred town hall debate. No script, just raw, unfiltered conversation. This is more than politics. This is where opinions clash, facts are tested, and the truth fights to be heard. Happening live on May 22nd by 11 a.m. at Golden Tulip Terrace Hall, Ihoka Tower, 36 International Airport Road, Lagos. Don't miss it. Watch live on YouTube at VOPTV. Set your reminder, subscribe, join the conversation. My candidate is the best, or is it?
Voice of the people. Find your brand. Find your home.
Okay, go to YouTube now, and that show is supposed to be going on at this time, so you join the debate, or you can just go to Qatar on Airport Road and be a part of it, when these people will be asked the relevant questions and see how they will answer it. These are the same questions that you should be asking them when they come to the field to campaign wherever you are. So we're still here in the house with Barrister Jimmy Abia, and we're talking about inheritance. What is the reality and what the law says about inheritance in Nigeria? I'm sure it's a very big eye-opener for a lot of people. Now let's return to this discussion with a message from Stanley from Ikorodu. He says, what happens when a man decides to will his property to a mistress? Will his biological children and maybe biological children call family fight against such one-sided will?
Yes, the children have a right.
But he was of sound mind and he made his will.
No.
So what are the chances?
The fact that he willed, of course, anybody can will his property to anybody. That's the general principle. However, if there are children or wife that he has a responsibility to, especially if they are still under age,
okay,
the law would not allow that will to be implemented as it is. Again, it will also be if the man dies intestate. Of course, the mistress has no place at all.
Yeah.
So, but if there is a will that has now willed properties to the mistress instead of the family, and this family are still dependent of this man, the law will not allow the mistress to go with the entire property. The law will come into play, in equity.
So this brings the question:
yes,
who is legally disqualified from inheriting? For instance, can a child be disinherited just because the parents chose not to give anything to him?
No, it's similar to what we have said. A child cannot be disinherited if a child is still underage.
What if he's not?
There must be provision for the care of that child.
What if it's not
Now,
underage?
if the person is, an adult, of course, it will not. If he's an adult and not dependent, because it is also possible that this person is an adult but still depending on this man. For instance, if there's an adult that this man has been paying his medical bill, a sick child, it will not. The law will not allow that situation to now alter things for that person who has been dependent on this man even while he was alive. So those things will come into play, so nobody, in principle, nobody can be disinherited provided that the person is in the line of succession to that property.
Okay.
Yeah.
This Ima who sent in the earlier message is saying, this property I'm talking about has been partitioned separately. Everybody has a control over his own part. Everybody has his own part, and with a deed of partitioning.
Yeah.
And also, can I will my part with the deeds of partitioning to a religious organization if I die and chose to do that?
It would depend. It would depend. If in the partitioning, it was said or understood by the parties that this will not go outside the family. Of course, if you say it's, will it outside the family, it will be invalid because these were conditions. But if there's no such requirement, because there are properties held as there's something it is called like a family. I've forgotten the
family
word.
Trust or something.
Yes, like a family, property family trust that passes on for generations. Now, in such instance, you will not be allowed. You will not be in the position to give it to will it to a religious organization. But if there is no such thing, it is simply a property and it has been demarcated. You understand? Everybody is on their own. Whatever you do with your own is your business. The mere fact that it is in the same building, will not, affect that.
Okay. Well, it's interesting, but let's look at some things specifically that maybe can re-emphasize what we've been talking about. We have been able to trash this one that happens in not just Igbo culture, but particularly the misconception that people have been having about this.
A big misconception.
Yes.
And let me tell you why it's important that people understand this misconception, because it has enabled injustice. Especially with the way it has been passed over years, and the media, keeps restating it that Igbo culture says women cannot inherit. It has worked more injustice, because there are instances where people would have been maybe because they don't have the finances to go to court. Now the people, the other parties in the family will believe that this is what the custom says, and because of that they will deprive the other member of the family. But if they understand what the position of the custom says, apart from even the constitutional position, which they also need to understand now. Do you understand? If they understand it, that's why I'm saying that people need to understand where we started to understand where we are going. So it is wrong. It is not correct. And I believe that in future, because this is information age, and some of us will not sit by while the wrong information keeps being peddled. So in future, these things will be challenged, and the courts will make the right determination in terms of not to change the law that whether everybody can inherit, but to understand and to restate in the law that originally the custom does not deprive women from inheriting property. The Igbo custom does not deprive women of inheritance in property.
Okay, so as a layman, I tell you that the Constitution is greater than whatever.
That is exactly my point.
Whatever.
So people need to understand.
So even if your community has that,
exactly, the law, the Constitution will override all that.
Okay, so let's see. What are the three warning signs that an inheritance dispute is heading to court, for instance? Or let's just put it simply, what's the single most important thing a family should do while the patriarch or matriarch or whoever it is still alive, so that it doesn't get to the court when he dies?
I would rather say what the person, the matriarch himself,
Should do.
or the patriarch should do.
At the time, okay.
Now, if the person has a number of options, he can gift out his property. Gift this property in intervivals, in the sense that this property is given while he's alive, but will apply from the time he dies. Do you understand? So he can gift these properties. He can do gift. He can even give the gift to commence immediately. So, like when somebody has properties, and the person is like 70, 80 years, what is he doing with all he needs is enough money to, buy medication.
Can someone ask for his property when you're still alive, like the prodigal son? Give me my own daddy before you die.
No, you want to kill you don't have such. You don't have. The person does not have right to that property until this man
says so.
Yes, until he says so or he dies.
Oh God,
do you understand? So he cannot ask for. He doesn't have a right. He didn't make the money, so he has no such right. So it's important that people know the options they have, so they can pass this property through gift. They can also create a trust.
Okay.
To manage the property and pass it on at the time when they've died, or even keep managing it and returning resources. It depends on the kind of trust. And returning proceeds to the family, to each member of the family, depending on what the trust has created, or making a will. So these are options which a person has while he's alive. So it's important that somebody does that. Anybody who has property to be willed does
this question is about things that may or may not still be existing in Igbo land. I'm particular about Igbo this time, not just an example. There's something we used to hear in Igbo land called Osu.
Okay.
So someone who, I don't know if it's still practiced, but if it is still practiced, can this person be entitled to any inheritance in Igbo land?
Of course. Why is he not entitled? Have you ever heard that anybody is deprived of property because he's an Osu? Now, let me even explain.
What is this
It's
Osu?
important. You see, the problem we have in this society is that people don't do research. If people were to do research and understand where this thing started, Osu will not be a bad thing. Osu is not a bad thing. If Osu was a bad thing, you will not hear people being called Osu, Osuchukwu as names. It's not a bad. That's what I'm saying. It is not.
Explain to us.
So Osu were people who were priests, who were priests to the deities,
the traditional Levites.
Exactly, the traditional Levites, because the Igbo culture had the system like the Hebrews, people who were the Levites, they married within themselves. They did things within themselves because they were deemed to be holy. So these were not people seen as
second class,
second class or third class citizens. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. So it was the misconception, and I keep saying that the problem is trying to solve a problem that is not a legal problem with law. So there was the law made in 1956, the Eastern Osu Caste System Abolition Law. I have said that rather than that law, what they would have done, or in addition to that law, what they would have done was proper re-education of people to understand what was before the European religions came. Now, let me tell you what happened. When European religions came, there was a conflict between systems, because people would either go to worship with the deities or worship with the
Christians.
So the Christian missionaries, of course, they probably do not understand the system, or they understood but felt that the conflict between the system can be best handled by
demonizing
the other group. Exactly. So they felt that don't relate with these people, demonize them, and that was how the segregation now started. Now that segregation, of course, in most communities today, and is no longer applicable. You understand? It's no longer applicable because people are also coming to understand where things started. People are understanding the traditional religion and where things started, so that these things are being removed. So first of all, to your question, that somebody is an Osu does not deprive the person of the property of the property of his parents in
Which
terms
means
of
he
inheritance.
should have been a superior person even.
Exactly, that's what we are saying. That's what we are saying. Also, that's why I told you that people bear it as name. It was not a negative thing. People bear it as name, and when somebody bears that name, it means that the person is a worshipper of a special day of this
or
deity.
a descendant.
Yes, exactly. Do you understand? But you see what is happening today. Somebody whose name is Nwosu, I've seen a number of instances, will go and change his name to, instead of Nwosu, will change it to Nwachukwu. But the Chukwu is the deity.
Yeah.
The Osu is the one who worshipped the deity. But because Chukwu was brought into Christianity and now made the Christian God, was now used for the Christian God. Of course, there are different names. Chukwu Obase, there's Chukwu Okike Abiyam and all different names for. So these were names for those deities, but which have been integrated into Christianity. So you will now see people changing their name from to Nwachukwu, which it is no difference. It's not different. So it is not a negative thing. People must understand this. Nothing makes an Osu person inferior. So people need to understand. There is a lot of misconception, and it is important that our education in Nigeria changes so that people can go back to history, go to community, ask questions from the old dying generation. Wow, what was this before? How was it applied? What if people can ask questions, like some of us who were in rural community, who grew up in rural community, that know those things, can tell you, can actually explain these things better. But you see a number of young people who are born in 60s, they've never been to their villages, they grew up, and whatever they are taught in school by somebody who is probably not even from that community. For instance, even the judgments, some of these judgments, we are especially at the superior courts, we are decided by people who are not from the community. So they don't understand how these things came originally, how they came to be.
That's how Mongo Park discovered.
Exactly. Those are the things. How Mongo Park discovered.
That's very funny.
River Niger and all that.
People were not living there.
Yes.
Okay.
And also can inherit property.
Okay. So just quickly now, my father died interstate, and my uncle sold the land. Can my mother and I reverse it? How would you advise?
His father, please explain again.
That the father died interstate. That is without a will.
Yes.
And his uncle sold the land. So what chances do his mother and him have? How would you advise?
Of course.
Can they reverse it?
They will not be able, because this other person is a purchaser, and is something they call purchaser for value. He paid for it, acquired it from the uncle. They have a right against.
But does the uncle have that right over the wife and child of this man?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. But
is that not illegal?
The latches, the acquiescence over time. Because what should have happened, and that's why I keep talking about people knowing their right. What should have happened would have been for them to, immediately their father. Nothing, no registry would prevent a wife that is legally married from applying for letters of administration for her husband, or prevent the child from applying for indeed there's a registry judge, a probate judge. I would decide on these matters. So they had the right to have prevented the uncle from benefiting or taking away that property from them. That's what they would have done. That's what they would have done. But as it is today, they can still move against the uncle, because what he has committed is not just a civil wrong, it's also a crime. Because he never had right. He must have posed that he had the right to sell that, to dispose of that property. Probably even forged documents, which he never had, to sell that property. So they can move against him, both in civil law and in criminal law, against the uncle, to redress that, issue. Yes.
Someone is saying, while one is asking you to restate how Osu started, how Osu started, another one is saying Osu are those who are being sacrificed to the shrines. That's what he's saying. So
no.
So very quickly now, because the time is up.
It's not sacrificed. It's not. They are not sacrificed.
But they are dedicated.
They are dedicated
to
They are dedicated to this deity, because there needed somebody. There was a need for a priest to worship, just the same way Reverend Fathers do not marry today. So maybe there's now a system that now demonizes that previous system, and it will now be saying that because they are secluded and not married, or maybe Reverend sisters, they are now evil. That was not originally. So people dedicated are not.
I think the Levite example is
exactly.
a really good
Levite
one.
example, and this is
Very
the reason why a number of people say that Igbos, have a Hebrew heritage. Whether it is true or not, it's not for me to say. But I use that example of the Levites. So people need to understand how this thing started. So they will understand that there's no need, there's no reason to discriminate against the next person simply because the person. And let me even say this: if somebody's family, let's say previously, because most Igbos are Christians today, let's even assume that the great grandfather of this person was the worshiper of the deity. Today this person is a Christian, attends the same church with you. So those things, doesn't Bible say that the old things have passed away. All things have become new? But it is also important for us to understand that there was nothing originally negative about the Osu system.
Yeah, because some people made it sound like those people are slaves, they cannot mingle with the freeborn and all that.
There is another category. Let me make this point, and people mistake it with the Osu. There's the Ohu. The Ohu is the one who was the categories who were slaves. So in those days it was, even in the United States, even in Europe, having slaves was a normal thing. So the Ohu system was about having slaves. But even in that system, it has been abolished. So the Ohu is not, but the Ohu is not the same as the Osu. So that's what I want people to understand. So
thank you. I wish we had more time, but time has gone a long time ago, and it's been a very wonderful discussion. Thank you very much, Barrister Abia, for coming on the show and enlightening us. A lot of people have learned today, not just about inheritance, but especially about this Osu thing. And I'm really glad about this. Thank you for your time this morning. So that's it on the brunch this morning, and I do hope that you're going to have a wonderful day. Tune in to Voice of the People TV on your YouTube and watch the debate live. This is Nyamgul Agaji signing out from the brunch this morning. Bye for now.